What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel, and on today's video we'll be talking about gacha games in general and the new EOS announced by Square Enix. Well, Dragon Quest Tact global version will end its service by February 29 of 2024. That's a very peculiar date. That's the same date that Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia will close its servers. This was announced like 1 month prior, and Dragon Quest Tact Global was never a really famous game. I did try to play this at first, had fun for a while, but the problem with this type of game is that it is geared towards people that like the monsters and not the characters from the Dragon Quest series. On launch you can only play with monsters, and eventually some of the human characters were released, and on JP they don't mind much about that. They have Dragon Quest Monsters games and they played in a lot. Dragon Quest is a very popular franchise there. But here on Global, I don't think people were eager to keep pulling for monsters in a game that also required a lot of grinding, like most gachas anyway. So this game will still keep running on JP, but the global server was just announced for EOS. Okay, I was expecting this, and I said that multiple times on my Discord server in one of my videos as well, because it was not making enough money. And it's a game that even has some co-op features, so it is a little costly to make. I think a little more costly than even Romancing SaGa Universe, and that is an important fact when talking about a game that does not make much money. If it has very low cost, the company can keep it alive just to have brand recognition, to keep the brand alive. But in the case of not making enough money to pay the servers, well, it will receive a cut. So, it's interesting that this time they will only have 2 months to play. Usually Square Enix leaves 3 months for the game to eventually die, but the game will keep running on JP. That's what will happen, and that's the 3rd Dragon Quest game to get an X in global. Yeah, the first one was Dragon Quest of the Stars, then Die mobile game, and now Dragon Quest Tact. And not just this game got an end-of-service announcement. Fullmetal Alchemist Mobile will end its service March 29. That's actually 1 month after Dragon Quest Tact, and the game will end in less than 2 years of service. That's an interesting fact because Fullmetal Alchemist is a very important brand, and on JP I think it never managed to find an audience. The game is tactical and plays much similar to Fire Emblem in some ways, and the game never managed to find an audience. And it was one that people were expecting a global release. I don't know if it will, well, fare well against many other games that are now popular on the West, but it did have a chance, I believe. It is very recognizable in the West. So, they said that it was difficult to maintain the team structure necessary to provide a better service going on. And the game is dying before we have a Western version. Not just this game, actually. We also had announcement of EOS for Engage Q. That's a multimedia service type of game where you can play the game, you can watch the anime, and even manga. So it was a very big investment for the company. It was aligned with some other companies as well, like A1 Pictures that produced the anime version. So it was a joint venture. And the game is already getting an X. So this one would never come to global, I believe. It would not be enough successful. And that just makes me remember many cases of Square Enix games that got EOSs. Remember Echoes of Mana? I was also predicting this one. It just didn't have enough of a fresh air for the gacha gaming, and it was very predatory. Kind of like, no, not even kind of like Ever Crisis is. Ever Crisis is much more greedier than Echoes of Mana ever was. But I do believe that a gameplay loop was not interesting enough for people to play this game every single day. I guess it comes down to a moment where if you have to play every single day, you do have to have some sort of auto mechanic that works, and the auto in this game was very bad. People needed to play on manual repeated amount of times the same types of quests, and you needed to pull many characters, duplicates, and a lot of things. And the brand is not so strong on the West like Final Fantasy VII is. So it died. It was also developed by the same developers as Another's Eden. That is a game that still runs up to this day, had many collaborations. So this one didn't last for a whole year. And that brings me back to Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia again. This game also got cut because of development costs. And in this case, they had co-op, they had voice actors to pay. There were a lot of costs to keep the game running, and I do believe that the audience dropped it a lot in the recent years, and Square Enix is now betting on games that make much more money, like Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. I believe War of the Visions is also very greedy, and when there's too many competition, you cannot keep a big audience, unless your game is stellar, like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and there's no much space for too many games. So, that also brings me back to Romancing Saga Universe, and people will keep asking, why is Romancing Saga Universe still alive after so many games are getting the X? And I don't know if I have a perfect answer, but one of them is that we have a very good producer. Masanori Ishikawa-san handles the console games and the mobile game. That's extremely important. That doesn't happen with Final Fantasy brand, because there's way too many people handling different products. Like the director of Final Fantasy 16 is one, then the director of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is another, and the ones that handle the mobile games are different people. And when Masanori Ishikawa-san is handling both the console games, but the mobile game as well, he kind of has a little more control over the brand. And if he wants the brand to stay alive, in order to make it stronger, to keep releasing games, and even releasing remasters and remakes, it works for them. We don't have any type of co-op, we don't have raids, or anything that increases server costs management, so they are also releasing Saga Emerald Beyond next year, on 25th of April. And they announced that in a live stream that had instant translation into English. That means that they are still believing that they can make this brand stronger on the West. So, I believe that Romancing Saga Universe will stay alive for the time being because of the same reasons I already mentioned it in my video when talking about Dissidia. They just want the brand to live. And they are doing this by releasing new games. Next year we'll probably get the announcement of Saga Frontier 2 Remaster. And up to that point, we should be safe. We also have Unlimited Saga to get a remaster or remake in the future, but that point is a little too far. I don't know if the game will still be interesting for them to keep. But so far, we are still outliving very good games. I believe the next game to get EOS may be Nier Reincarnation, because this game doesn't have a very strong audience, and they do have high server costs for the game. I may be wrong though, and we'll have to wait and see what will happen. But so far, I'm happy that Saga Universe is still alive, and I'm sad for people that cannot play Dragon Quest Tact anymore, because it looked like a cool game for those that love the franchise. But things happen, and I don't know when they will do another Dragon Quest gacha game in the West. It seems like Square Enix wants to upgrade some franchises to AAA status instead of keeping making gacha games. They will always do that on JP, but maybe the gacha community is not as big as it was before, or there's too much competition to keep releasing 5 games a year. And I want to know what will happen with these brands, because at least in the case of Echoes of Mana, their players can now play something for real. Visions of Mana got announcement, and it's a full title that will be released for consoles. So even if a gacha dies, it doesn't mean that the brand will die. Even happened with Valkyrie Anatomia. That was a mobile game, and they then announced Valkyrie Elysium. That was not really a very good game, but the brand still live it. Well, I guess this ends my opinions on the subject. I believe that we'll see less gacha games from Square Enix, especially in the West. They will start to invest back in some console games because the market is not as big as it was before. Then the competition makes it too hard to keep games running. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Bye.